You brought Nora over here, didn't you?
No. You brought her here yourself, Fitzgerald. Long ago. In your mind, a physical presence alters nothing.
What are you trying to do, ruin my life?
Let us discuss the matter calmly, Fitzgerald. You mind? You must believe me when I tell you that I was prompted by the noblest of motives, simple gratitude and affection for yourself. It was for that reason that I left my native waterfall to come here and dwell in your cold, inhospitable city. And I don't mind telling you, I'm a little bit homesick. My nose itches for the smell of peat and my eyes watered for the sight of a blackthorn in bloom. It's sad indeed that I've been unable to complete my mission. That I must leave you and fail you.
But I didn't ask you to come.
To be sure you didn't. But then, you don't always wait for an invitation to follow the brave music of a distant drum. You see, I had learned to like you. Still, I suppose, to be philosophical, there would be other centuries to come. And other young men with a nose for treasure. I offered you gold. It is not my fault that you prefer a pebble.
This is the emergency podcast system. This is not a test. Movies are bombing all over the country. They are posing as movies you already know. They may already be in your theaters, your neighbor's home, or even your own. Do not panic. Specialists have been dispatched. They will help you identify these pretenders and defend you against this invasion of the remake. Please stand by for further instructions.
Welcome to the Invasion of the Remake. I am your host, Jason Bishop, and I am not going to do an Irish accent today because I'm terrible at accents. And with me today, as always, is Sam Stepanenko.
Guess what? I'm not doing one either.
I know one who will.
I try to do the Irish accent. I do it a bit. It's quite subtle. I can do the Dublin one.
Oh, that's not bad.
Dublin one's not bad. It's not too bad.
Trish Coughlin, everybody.
Coughlin. Love Ireland. I am actually half Irish.
See, we've got some here today. We got a little luck of the Irish with us today.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing. We're doing a fan challenge by our listeners waited a long time for us to do this because, he wanted us to do Luck of the Irish and made a good pitch on it. And I'm like, yes, we will. You probably shouldn't have done it in April.
True.
Because I wanted to time it for St. Paddy's Day. And it's ish. We're fairly close to it now. So happy future St. Paddy's Day. Drink responsibly. Wear your masks.
Yes.
Not in that order.
It's hard to drink while wearing a mask. But maybe that is responsible drinking?
I mean, you can just slip the bottle underneath your mask.
Or a straw just under.
Ooh, drinking beer with a straw.
Yeah.
You're going to get drunk real fast. And
Hell
it's going to
yeah.
be your cheapest St. Paddy's Day ever.
Exactly.
I don't know what it is about celebrating St. Paddy's Day and getting drunk. That really feels like you're just perpetuating an Irish stereotype.
Kind of, yeah. It really is. But it's just so fun. You know what? I think it was basically because they wanted a holiday where you could just go get drunk. I mean, Christmas, you gorge yourself. That's food drunk. So there are our holidays where you do stuff. And then Easter, that's chocolate drunk. And Halloween is also chocolate drunk. Valentine's is sex drunk.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. I don't know how your Valentine's Day went, but mine was watching horror movies.
I don't know. I decided to, give myself a little treat, just, treat myself nice for that one day. You can make
Is
love
that
to
a new
yourself.
euphemism?
Yeah, I was about to say, I just looked at Sam. She means masturbating.
Yeah, just
Having a slushy.
just make love to myself. Tell myself I'm beautiful. It all works out.
That's right. And you're never disappointed when you wake up the next morning.
Exactly. Well, I don't know. Sometimes we know I have had problems. I'm like going, yeah, I don't know.
I feel so dirty.
Yeah. I don't know. If somebody is too attractive, if the offer's on the table, I'm kind of like, I think both of us will lose respect for you if you do this.
Coming to a comedy club in Vulcan near you.
Yes.
Yes, this was a request by Monty White. Thank you, Monty, for making this request, and thank you for your patience. Hope you're still listening.
Yes.
But we finally got to it. We got to The Lucky the Irish from 1948. And for some reason, we're doing another Tyrone Power movie right after doing a Tyrone Power movie. And it was his next movie.
Yes.
Yes. And we did not plan this.
No.
Welcome to the Tyrone Power Hour.
It's so weird how that worked out. You know, this one I've been planning for a year. Nightmare Alley just kind of happened because it was in the theater and we wanted to talk about it. And in a way, I don't know, I felt like this is like Tyrone's Power doing the same character, but coming out the other side and bettering himself.
Yeah. Well, he starts off pretty decent.
He
actually.
does.
He does, yeah.
He does it, and he struggles with those things that would be negative in his life. He's got this girlfriend and the boss's daughter, which can't be awkward at all.
No.
Even though he hates the boss.
Well, it's his integrity, too, that's on sale, too. That sort of bothers him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like thematically, it's actually very similar. It's just told in a very different way. In a much more enjoyable way, to be honest with you. Like, feel good way. I don't want to say enjoyable because I enjoyed the Nightmare Alleys as well, but this has felt way more uplifting than the Nightmare Alleys. I did feel pretty low after both of those.
Yes. This is a much warmer movie.
Yes, the Nightmare Alley was pretty down ending, even with the more uplifting one on the ending of the original, which is just barely.
Yes.
At least Tyrone Power character didn't have to sink too terribly far. It was more this struggle with his own self-worth, I think, and he was always kind of flip-flopping through this movie, but he never ever fell too far, and I kind of like it because it is still a weird little romantic comedy, but doesn't really follow those romantic comedy tropes, at least not whole cloth.
No,
I think that it may have introduced some of them in its own way, but I don't think it followed the rules that we see now beaten to death in romantic comedies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the dating the boss's daughter. Huge trope now.
Mm-hmm.
But then it was probably new. It was a whole thing. Because, dating the boss's daughter, so you're obviously working for daddy.
Yeah, and it's always like, the first act, pursue the girl. Second act, you do something to fuck it up.
Yeah.
Third act, everybody runs together at the airport.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or in the middle of a bridge, but somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, or you finally figure out that the woman he's with is terrible and he actually wants the romantic lead. But this one, I didn't really hate the boss's daughter. She was a smart cookie. Quite frankly, I think she was the one who should have been in politics. And
she was manipulating people pretty good to get what she wanted, but she didn't come off evil for it. She just comes off pragmatic for it.
And then at the end of it, the engagement's over, but good luck, dude.
Yeah. It's like, well, you don't want the things I'm going to give you, so that's fine.
No hard feelings.
Yeah. I kind of like that. Her dad's pretty shitty at times, but even then, he's pretty nice to Tyrone Power, unless Tyrone Power isn't bending to his will.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you don't want to do that? Well, you're doing it because I'm paying you to do it.
Yeah, he changes the terms of the agreement quite frequently throughout the film.
Pray I don't change it anymore. I don't know how that quote goes. It's a Star Wars thing. Go look it up. You know what it is. Somebody out there's yelling. It's just stay off your keyboard.
It's fine.
Keyboard warrior.
It's fine.
You know what I'm referencing.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Yes.
Well, it was the whole
world
time.
won't end.
True. It was the whole time what his friend Bill was telling him about. What Augur does to decent men who go to work for him.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, he was warned. And I like the fact that he has this wonderful friend in Bill who really respects him and thinks highly of him and is trying to offer him some guidance. And then he gets Horace, who becomes his Jiminy Cricket, basically.
Yeah, and Bill, this is 1948, post-war. Stephen the main character, Tyrone Power's character, is working for Bill as a war correspondent, and now that the war is over, he's looking to go back home with this big offer from a guy to work at a paper he used to criticize.
Yes.
Who wants to run for political office.
Yeah, and there's that carrot of, well, you get to run the corporation after I go.
Yeah.
So he's struggling with his ambition a lot because he's like, well, this is something I really want. But then I think that he also gets to question it. He's like, is this really what I want?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's that whole thing too, where it's kind of funny where in many movies it's the woman like, do I get like stability for this? But that's what he's seeking, is a stable job, stability. He doesn't have to go everywhere all the time. It's wild. He wants that picket fence life. Mm-hmm. That he doesn't have to go anywhere and put his life in danger.
Yeah, which is interesting because in this opening of this movie, he's on a car ride with Bill. I'm not even sure where the hell they're supposed to be going. I guess probably going to the ship to send Tyrone Power off.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's trying to get there,
Yeah, they're trying to find the where on the coast.
Because Tyrone Power can't read a map and as a really horrible driver.
Yes.
Oh, this bridge will hold us. And of course, that bridge is going to collapse. Yeah. So just leaves the car with his friend in it. Oh, just stay with the sinking car. No, don't go out. Don't get out. Just stay with the sinking car. I'll go get help. Pray you don't drown while I'm gone.
I think the car had hit bottom.
Yeah.
So he's just sitting on the car in the river.
He's going to have some wet feet.
Yeah. I mean, Bill did say, it's like, well, you can't trust maps in Ireland because the roads kind of make themselves.
They're whimsical like the Irish spirit.
Yes. They were lost for good reason.
Yeah.
But he is not a very good driver. And is it just me, or did that car seem like moving way faster?
They were speeding it up to move the scene along.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of him driving, for sure.
And it looked
There's
ridiculous.
A few times. They did it with Horace as well when he was walking away. And suddenly this leprechaun is walking away at really fast pace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Like, it's not like it would eat up that much time.
Yeah, that extra 3 seconds. Oh, no.
I know. Yes. Oh, my God. I just let it out. There is a leprechaun in this movie.
Yes.
Because it is the luck of the Irish.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah.
That would be Horace.
Horace. Well, that's sort of the name he kind of gives himself.
Yeah.
We don't even know if that's his true real name.
And it's a really interesting first meeting because Tyrone Power just sees him at this magical waterfall setting that nobody else seems to know exists.
Yes.
Well, it doesn't exist.
It only exists when Horace is there. So this neat setting with fog on the ground, and Tyrone Power stumbles upon the leprechaun, not knowing he's a leprechaun. He's just trying to get some directions.
Yeah.
And man, Cecil Callaway did a really fun job with this movie and his reactions to it. He's reacting to like a leprechaun would. It's like, oh, this guy's after me gold.
Yes.
And hey, settle down. I'm just looking for directions. I didn't mean to scare you, not knowing that there was gold to be had.
No, he's somebody who doesn't believe in these stories.
Yeah.
So he just thinks he's coming upon a dude in a forest.
Yeah, and I think there's something about that because Tyrone Power's Stephen Fitzgerald, so he is Irish himself, at least in his heritage. And I don't think they do enough to recognize that he's not accepting that heritage.
I think you're right, yeah, because he's American with an Irish background.
Yeah.
And he's never really learned the fables or bought into them because he grew up in a country that doesn't have leprechauns and doesn't have the mythology and stuff.
And to be fair, I think he probably also grew up in a portion of the world where the Irish people weren't looked on too favorably, so the quicker you lost all that stuff, the better off you were.
Yeah, and you also have the fact that he's just come out of a war. So that's really hard to sort of believe in the whimsical when you're still dealing with the trauma of what you've seen. Even though he wasn't a soldier, he was still a correspondent and would have seen a lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might be something interesting to bring in is if we continue with that sort of vein, having some of that post-traumatic struggle might not be a bad way to sort of lean into that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I did want to modernize the story, but it takes us away from the war. Mainly because, we're getting further and further away from people being able to relate to that war.
Well, see, and I disagree with that a bit because now there's all sorts of stuff. There's always been all sorts of stuff.
Oh, yeah. No, I still think he could be like a correspondent abroad. He just wouldn't be working for a newspaper anymore.
No.
He would be like for a news feed, a news site.
A freelance journalist.
Yeah, an actual journalist. I mean, it's an easy fix. And that's really most of this movie is an easy fix.
Oh, yeah.
Because there really isn't much I would like to change here. I mean, there's some little bit of hackneyed 40s type of filmmaking going on here. But for the most part, this is a really solid story that it's more of a case where I think a tried and true remake of this would work.
Yeah, it makes complete sense to have somebody who is a journalist covering a lot of tragedies in the world, so maybe doesn't believe in the whimsical, still has PTSD. You have a newspaper magnate who wants to get into politics, or something like you have a rich guy with delusions of grandeur.
A rich guy that gets into politics? Boy, I don't want to live that nightmare.
I know.
No
a guy with
kidding.
delusions of grandeur.
Oh, glad I don't live in that world.
Exactly. The daughter who's smart enough who wants in, but knows it's easier to get the old white dude elected.
Feeling very, very deja vu all of a sudden.
I know. This movie I felt the whole way this movie was very prescient.
Exactly. Very little we have to change.
Yeah, because it's so relatable to today's world. It wouldn't be too hard to say, hey, this DC auger guy is Donald Trump, and that's his daughter. That's his hot daughter.
His dad gets him like his future father-in-law, quote unquote, gets him an apartment because it's hard to find a place in New York. Gets him a quote unquote servant, and his daughter talks about, oh, people are having servant troubles all the time these days. It's now.
Well, and that brings up something that I noticed when I was watching it too, is the fact that they've taken all of the control out of his life. Because she even decorates his apartment.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And makes him put up that painting. And I love the fact, and this does go to rule of threes, there are 3 times where somebody came to the apartment and looked at it going, the hell is that? Right? Well, they didn't say it, but you could see that that's what they were thinking because of the way they looked at it. They would turn the head sideways and stuff like that. As I do it, because you guys can see it. But
yeah. Well,
I never did figure out what the painting was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Well, what did they say? It was about a certain part of the war or something in Italy. Like, that's what it was representing. It was abstract art.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something you could do. I don't know. I kind of liked it, but that's just me.
Okay, before we get any more further into this, I'm going to run a clip from Luck of the Irish because I could not find a trailer. So here's the clip from The Luck of the Irish when Stephen meets Horace for the first time.
Hey! Good afternoon. My friend and I were lost. Can you direct me to the nearest town?
Oh, then you didn't come here looking for me.
For you? Of course not. I'm looking for a town where I can hire a car.
Indeed. What might your name be?
Eh?
Your name?
Fitzgerald.
Fitzgerald. Maybe if I knew why you were needing a car.
Look, if you don't mind, I'm in a terrible hurry.
Hurry. It's a strange word, hurry. Why would you be in a hurry?
There's a very important man waiting for me in New York, and he's not the kind that you keep waiting.
Important. There's another one of your words. It's plain to see that you're impatient with me, Fitzgerald. I've enjoyed our conversation. I'll not detain you any longer.
Thank you very much.
Then you'll not be wanting my direction.
Oh, yes, that's right.
The water from the mountains comes into my pool with a roar, goes out with a whisper. Down the hill it goes, till it quietly reaches the sea, near a little village called Ballinaboon. You, sir, may do the same.
I'll go get my friend. Thank you very much.
You're entirely welcome. Good day to you, sir.
Oh, good day.
And that wasn't the trailer from The Luck of the Irish. That was a clip. And this was based on the novel For Fear of Little Men by Constant and Guy Jones. And the screenplay was written by Philip Dune, who wrote The Last of the Mohicans. No, not that one. But maybe we'll have to cover that one someday.
Yeah.
And additional dialogue by J.M. Kerrigan, who we'll tell you a little bit more about in a little bit here.
Nice.
This was directed by Henry Coster, who directed Harvey, The Robe, and The Bishop's Wife, and we may cover one or more of these at some point. I know The Bishop's Wife was remade a long time ago. starring Tyrone Power as Stephen Fitzgerald, and we talked about him in episode 329.
Nightmare Alley.
Finally got one, Trish.
Yay!
Finally got one.
I just have to, I have a week's worth of memory, and then the hard drive reboots.
Trish is a goldfish.
Exactly. Goldfish do have longer memories than people say.
I know.
They can do a week.
Look, a castle.
Look, a castle. Look, a castle.
Where'd that chest with the skeleton come from?
Who's that diver?
Ann Baxter was Nora, and she was in All About Eve and Razor's Edge, and we mentioned Razor's Edge last week, too.
Yeah.
Guess we might have to cover that soon.
Well, I think Tyrone Power's in Razor's Edge.
Maybe not that soon.
Unless we want to make March Tyrone Power month.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I've been enjoying his movies.
Yeah, so far so good.
I get why he had such a sex appeal thing. I get it.
Trisha's got an ancient crush happening.
I do. I don't know why. Didn't know this happened. I was always wondering why they said he was like sex appeal. Now I get it.
Romantic lead. Cecil Callaway was Horace, and we actually did talk about him way back in episode 237, Portrait of Jenny.
That one's coming up a lot lately.
I know, weird, eh?
Wow.
See, and we're hitting those ones where I'm like, 300 credits.
Oh,
Fuck that.
Yes.
doing cast list for this sucked. Cecil Callaway, believe it or not, actually was nominated for an Oscar for this film.
Nice.
For Best
I can
Supporting Actor.
see that. I mean, his physical performance was really something to watch.
Yeah. I mean, and doing the Irish accent and the dialogue, like, this movie's got great dialogue.
Yes.
Great dialogue. Lee J. Cobb was DC Augur. This is the paper magnate who's running for office. He was in The Exorcist.
That's where I saw his face looked so familiar.
James Todd was Bill Clark. He was in Riders of the Purple Sage. Jane Meadows,
Yes.
the legendary Jane Meadows, was Frances Augur, the daughter of DC. And you might remember her in her senior years in movies like City Slickers and Casino.
Mm-hmm.
Been around forever. Like, when I was looking through this, I'm like, not familiar with most of this cast, know who Tyrone Powers is. I'm like, Jane Meadows.
She was in a
her career
sitcom.
stretches that far back.
Yeah. I'm trying to watch TV sitcom. Might come to me later.
Oh, yeah, she was in a lot of stuff. She was that woman you saw in that thing that one time.
She is.
J.M. Kerrigan. Hey, does that name sound familiar? He played Taddy the Innkeeper. He was also did some dialogue tweaks on this script. We talked about him in episode 209.
I didn't.
The Wolfman.
Oh.
I did see that. Why didn't I write it down?
Was he an innkeeper in that? Maybe that's just his thing.
Maybe that's his thing. I don't know. Phil Brown was Tom Higginbotham. And you might remember him from the 1978 Superman movie. He was also in episode 23
He was Uncle Owen,
in Star Wars.
which makes your little quote that much more appropriate.
Right?
That's awesome. Hi, Uncle Owen. I like the
Yes.
fact that he's no longer a yes man in
I'm
Star Wars.
sorry you were burned to death by stormtroopers.
Yes.
And Charles Irwin was Cornelius, and he was in The Wizard of Oz. You would think that would make him the leprechaun in this movie.
Nope.
But he's not. He's just a bartender. Not just a bartender.
Yeah.
He's a bartender that's going to feed you till you explode like you're in Monty Python.
Oh, I love that part. It's so good.
And I think that's where, like, some of the changes will happen in our remake too, right? Like, do a little bit more with the comedy. Like, it was a very enjoyable movie to watch, but I wasn't laughing. I was enjoying the movie, but I feel like there's hijinks that a modern audience would enjoy to accentuate gags and things.
I want more of, the part where he's chasing him around the apartment and he's jumping over things and over the couch. I laughed at that. I loved that. That
was
delighted
pretty
me
amusing.
so much.
I want an explanation about the milk, because that kind of popped up and then just disappeared.
Oh, because it's at the beginning. Tyrone Power's talking to the innkeeper. Is like, don't you leave milk out rather than whiskey?
Okay, I missed that. Didn't make the connection.
For the leprechauns.
Yeah. So the leprechaun just thought it was all for him.
Yeah, so it was a misunderstanding, because it confused me a little bit, because there's that thing where you don't take anything that doesn't belong to you, and then he takes all the milk. And I missed that part of that dialogue, and that's why it didn't make sense to me. Now it does.
Yeah, there you go. No
And
worries. It's a tiny note.
didn't miss it, and I did not make that connection, so thank you for that.
Oh, there we go.
Because I thought that was a weird scene too, even though I didn't miss the part where leaving out milk, and I never did connect the two. Like, well, that's odd, but totally makes sense in the tradition of what you would do with a leprechaun. Now, that's something, if you're going to use it in a modern, you need to explain it.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows that, unless they're Irish.
No. And there's very few milkmen about. So there's a whole nother milk thing.
Yeah, that's probably not going to work.
I don't think it's going to work.
It will. Absolutely it will. Most people are getting food delivered to their homes anyhow now, including milk.
Oh, yeah, that could be it. Yes, there we go.
Yeah, so yeah, it's come full circle where home delivery is now a thing again.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
We got it. There we go. Yeah, if we tried this earlier, wouldn't have worked. Now.
See, I'm glad I waited a year.
There we are.
We could have done it last year, but...
Yeah.
It makes more sense now. It's more ingrained. It's entrenched.
That's right. You don't do a Leprechaun movie in May.
Yeah. And it could be weird because these people, it's their whole grocery order, but he's just taking the milk. And that's the odd part.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I like the gag. I just didn't quite connect it together. And so, but now that if we can just explain it a little bit better,
I wish I would have looked more into like the actual traditional leprechaun traditions in Ireland, because I clearly don't know beyond they don't like you stealing their Lucky Charms.
No, they don't like you stealing their gold. You have to capture him. You have to capture him to get his gold, but then they also say you have to spit on the gold.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the spitting on the gold either.
See, and I was paying attention because I'm like...
Otherwise the gold will be cursed.
Yeah.
Because you don't want cursed gold.
And they're also big tricksters, too. So, like, they will try all sorts of things to get out of it.
And that's where I think the fun will be had. I mean, because we've talked about an angry leprechaun before.
Yes.
And I don't want him to be that angry.
No.
Let's not have our leprechaun murdering people, but if he's coming to New York, he's going to have a bit of fun while he's there.
Oh, I want him to play around with people. Like, I do want him to be a bit of a trickster.
And you do see some of that in this movie.
I would like him to be out on his own, and then there's a rainbow, and he freaks out. Or he goes and sees his pal Bob.
Yeah. I want him to do tricks on Augur. I want part of his desire to show Stephen Fitzgerald what's wrong with this man is by pulling these tricks on him.
Yeah, and we should backtrack here because it's important to note why Horace has come into Stephen's life. Now, Stephen stumbled upon him once, got some directions, and left him alone, and went about his business. And then the innkeeper puts this idea of the traditional leprechaun in his head, and he actually sees this guy take the whiskey. I think in his head, he thinks this is some performance piece for the guests.
It's a prank.
It's let's fuck with our guys who are staying at the inn kind of thing. And I don't think he's taking it seriously, but he goes and follows them, does the traditional, I've got you, show me your gold. And sure enough, after a few ways of trying to talk himself out of it, I don't think Horace tried that hard. And then he gets the gold from Horace and sees this like old Spanish doubloons.
Yep.
And he's like, well, shit, I don't want to take this guy's life savings. He's buried in the forest. Like, how weird is that? But like, he's just feeling bad. Horace is crying. He's like, I've lost me gold. I lost me gold.
Yeah.
And he gives it back to him. All in good faith. He's like, okay, you've had your fun. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm not taking your gold.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to steal your gold.
And that's where that part that comes up for saying, well, I don't take anything that I haven't earned.
Yeah.
And that's where I got confused about the milk.
Yeah.
Because Horace says the same thing back to him. He says, I agree with you. I don't take anything that I haven't earned either.
Yeah. And there's a great little moment where he hands him a piece of gold, and this wonderful little bit, you'll hear it in one of the clips, either at the beginning or the end of the episode, where he gets the bloom, and there's a little bit of like, I wish all the luck in the world to you.
Yeah.
No, you don't understand. I wish all the luck in the world to you.
Yeah.
And that's what this, he's giving him a piece of his gold for luck. And when he comes into his life, he wants him to be rich in the way he needs to be rich, not with
Rich
value.
in spirit,
Rich in spirit.
Yeah.
He can have all the money in the world, but it won't make you happy. And that says a lot about Horace too, because he was very happy being in this forest, and sure, he coveted his gold like a leprechaun would, but it wasn't everything to him either.
Well, it's in the dialogue. He says, I have a nose for treasure. And one of the best parts of the movie, and I had to replay it a couple times because he said it kind of low and very fast and I didn't quite get it. Mm-hmm. He's like, I gave you a gold coin. It's not my fault you wanted a pebble.
Yes, that's also a clip you will hear in this episode. I got shivers when he delivered that line.
Yeah.
I texted you. I wasn't even finished watching it. And it's like, I do not want to remake this movie because it is just fine the way it is.
It is. I do urge everybody to watch it. It's free on YouTube in a couple of different places.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's legally free on YouTube, but go watch it while you can. It's there.
As long as it's on YouTube, it's legal because otherwise YouTube would have it down. That's
Yeah.
So it must be a public domain movie, but it's worth your time to watch for sure. It's very, very good. I do think maybe it's worth remaking, mainly because it's such a good story that should be reintroduced.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't say it shouldn't be remade. I said I do not want to do it.
No, it's going to be hard. It's paced really well.
Yeah.
The dialogue is awesome.
And this
the
is
concept is great.
where, usually we was like, go travel your own path. I don't think that's how you remake this movie.
No, you have to stay
I
pretty
say
close
you
to it.
stay pretty close. You can tweak the dialogue here and there, absolutely, to kind of modernize a little bit if we're bringing it into a modern setting. Just move it to one of the conflicts that's going on in major times. I mean, we could literally move it to the Ukraine right now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But, I mean, then he'd have to go back to Ireland somehow.
I think it could be like, he has been all around, and the only reason he's at Ireland because that's the only flight he could get out in time.
Well, I was thinking
He's like a European war correspondent for the U.S.
Yeah. I was thinking he doesn't really need to be a journalist.
No, he doesn't.
He could be anybody. I was thinking he could be like
he could literally be a tourist on vacation or visiting Irish family, which would play well to him ignoring his own heritage.
Yeah. Yeah, or instead of him being a political advisor, he could be like a guy who works in business and industry and rebuilds companies. And that could be why he was in Ireland. He was helping rebuild a company and bring it back to being a successful company. And then you have Augur, whose business is a really common business. You buy big companies and then you break them down into their smaller parts and sell them off. And
like Pretty Woman.
Yeah, exactly. Very much like that. I mean, yes, it's been done, but it might work a bit better in a modern context. And
Pretty Woman, but with a leprechaun instead of Julia Roberts.
Yeah, exactly. But then you can have that real moral conflict. This is the exact opposite of what Fitz does. Is he tries to rebuild companies, and this guy wants to tear them apart. And then you can have that same type of conflict without having to.
Yeah, you want something that challenges his moral fiber.
Yeah.
And that would definitely be a good one. I'm fully support that.
Yeah, and then you don't have to worry about the subtext of conflict and of a war behind it as well.
Yeah, as much as having some sort of weird PTSD might be a good story, I just don't think it works here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or more the case, no time for it.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't have to be heavy-handed about it because this is a light comedy.
Yeah, and I should say, at the end, this is where he meets Nora, who works at the inn for Taddy. I would just make them related as a family business.
That's what I thought they were.
I thought it was his daughter.
Yeah,
I thought so too, but I wasn't.
Or a niece or something like that.
But they never really kind of said so.
Yeah, it's just something you infer from the whole small town thing that you'd expect that to be a family business in Ireland, especially in the 40s.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then I'd like to know, like, there's something we can add. It's like, why do you stay in this small town rather than go out into the world? And that could be maybe one of the reasons, like, well, no, I have lots of family out in the world. And then you set up that she's related to this barkeeper in New York.
Oh, I love the whole idea where I really couldn't keep track of the entire story she was telling Steph.
No, I couldn't either.
I loved it.
And that was great. This fast way of telling a story.
Well, you remember these guys, and these guys had a farm, and then the farm went that, but then when the daughters didn't want the farm, like, you can keep that as ambiguous.
And if you actually set that up in his journey to, like, okay, you remember that meeting, that farmer who told you where the inn was, that sort of thing. Like, if it's done in such a way where if you were paying attention, you can actually follow that story, I would think that would be some brilliant dialogue.
Perfect.
And still say it the way she said it. It's like, slow down, I'm getting dizzy.
Yes. And then at a certain point, too, it could be like there is a slight connection with some of the stuff, like some of the companies and what he's trying to destroy, his future father-in-law is trying to destroy, as it kind of goes back to this business that she has in town. Just because he's like, they're trying to not really break down the farms, but like, make sure that all these farmers are against each other, buy up all the land, make a huge, big commercial farm.
That could be, but would Augur's business stretch out to Ireland? I would think maybe it could be...
Corporations go all over the world now.
Well, I mean, it could, but what if he's dealing also in real estate? Who does that sound like? That threatens this Irish pub and the community it's in. this strong
Yeah.
Irish community that lives there.
I don't want Augur to be reprehensible because he wasn't in the original.
No, I mean
everybody was likable in this.
Yes, I want to keep the character's portrayal. Like, Augur's willing to make evil business decisions that only benefit him, but he still comes off fairly affable.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with all of that because he sees the good in Tyrone and he thinks that's the right person to run his business when he goes into politics. So, I mean, he clearly knows what's right, but he corrupts people.
You do need that moment where he is affable.
Yeah.
And honestly, I do think he has to be a bit dark because there's got to be that reprehensible point where he's very affable. He's like, no, I want to, maybe run my business a little better. But then when Tyrone Power doesn't jump exactly how high he says, he's like, no, this is how we're doing it. This is how it's done.
Yeah,
this is how I'm
to change. Yeah.
Yeah, this is how I got rich. So either throw that conscience away and do what I say.
Yeah.
Or you have no future here.
Yeah. And I think we have to do more to show that Francis is not a good match for him. Because I think that was my one issue with the storytelling, is Francis and Nora felt pretty balanced to me in terms of matches for him until later on in the film.
She kind of comes out of nowhere, too, because... there's a little bit of flirtation going on while he's in this town before he leaves, and she's already kind of sad that he's leaving in the short time he's there. And that's not really cool of Tyrone to be doing that and having somebody waiting for him in New York.
Well, I mean, you can keep some of the bits of it, too, where, like, the guy's daughter is quite manipulative. She wants what she wants when she wants it. And it's not really about what he wants to do with his life.
That's what I wanted to lean into more, because she kind of sets that up with the whole apartment and decorating it and making him put the
art. Oh yeah, she got him the job, she got him the apartment, she got him the manservant that he didn't get.
Oh, I love that bit too, where he sends him away. He's like,
Yeah, that's the great thing. This manservant's been set up, and that's how Horace gets there. He gets there before the manservant, sets himself up as the manservant for Tyrone, his butler, and in a little moment of privacy, the butler actually shows up, and it's like, oh, the position's already filled, and the Leprechaun knows every dark secret this guy's got, and that scares him away. It was so brilliant.
Love that moment. Kind of want to keep that.
Oh, there's very little I want to ditch.
Yeah, very little. Like I said, really it's more I want to expand on some moments rather than cut moments out, because all the moments in it are so good. Like I said, I just think that our Francis needs to be a little clearer as a character. And I think Nora does too. Right? I mean, aside from that one really great scene in the pub, she's kind of just
she disappears for quite a while.
Yeah.
You get that moment at the beginning and you see there's a little bit of attachment. And there should be he's really finding this quaint little town and really liking it and the people in it. And there should be just a little bit more, I think, more time spent there before he comes back. And then you've got her well established. And then when she turns up again in the later half of the second act, then you can get things moving again, because now he's in a position where he's back in New York. He's setting himself up. He's got the job, the apartment, and he's now found out that Francis has done all this for him. And you get the feeling there's an old flame there is being forcibly renewed on him that he's uncomfortable with, and I really love that angle.
Yeah, and I do too. I just didn't get the sense of discomfort that I was hoping for from it.
Yeah, there are times where I feel like they weren't delivering what the script was giving us.
Yeah.
You could do kind of tiny notes in the village.
Yeah.
Like, you could lean into the paintings thing. Nora could be a painter, and Stephen could be like, oh, I really like that piece of art that you've done. That's really wonderful. He loves that. But he gets back to his apartment and the other woman is like, oh yeah, it's all abstract. Like it's not to his taste. And you can see that's another nugget of how it's that
big city movie art movement that's happening in New York that he's kind of missed abroad.
Yes.
Yeah. And he doesn't like it, but it's still being forced upon him. And he's like,
Well, I think you may have touched upon things, those little things, but there'd be a bit of disconnect when you've been away for so long.
Yeah, there would be. And I think, he has been abroad doing his work. And instead of having him like lost trying to get out of Ireland to get to New York, he could be trying to find the village in the first place because there is some work he has to do there. So he spends some time there. We get more time there instead of feeling like he's getting rushed out.
Well, but they don't. They just didn't spend that much time. Like, he was there for about a week. Time-wise, because they said the one boat that'll take you out the village.
That's true.
Should be there by Friday.
Should be there by Friday. I like all that. Because he's kind of stuck there because he doesn't have his vehicle anymore, and unless they fish it out. But that we might have to change whatever happens there, because that's one of those 1940s gags that sucks.
Yeah,
and that does not work. There's no way.
Or that's our first hint of Horace, where he's driving across this bridge. I mean, it's a small bridge or whatever. Or we could have some little accident that blocks him off from leaving. Just one of those little, and a rock slide or something that pulls out that road or collapses the way out of the town. And he'd be off in the distance. You might not even notice it happening. But I want to see that Horace has manipulated this whole situation. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense until he gives him the gold.
Yeah, because why does he pick Fitz until after he gets to know Fitz's character, right?
No, I was assuming that would happen after the night with the gold. Like, he's in this town to do his work. Like, he's got maybe a day or two of work there. Before he's done, then the road gets taken out. And before he's done, he meets Horace.
I got the feeling there, well, because he was with Bill, like he wasn't even meant to go through this town in the first place, right? And he was on his way out. But if it turned into like a work vacation type of thing with a buddy,
we can still have them get lost on their way to the town.
Yeah, I like the idea of being lost and finding this little oasis town in Ireland.
Yeah, no, and we can still do it that way. And I mean, isolation is harder now because it's harder now.
It's just the way the world is.
Yeah.
It's just bigger
but you
world.
can still pull that off, right? Is you do have that rock slide that Horace does instigate or manipulate to have happen, and it cuts out landlines, the road, and this is one of those little places that just doesn't really get cell service, because there are still little places.
There are,
especially in little places like that. Yeah,
been in Ireland, definitely a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these little hamlets totally make sense.
Yeah, and so it does feel fairly believable if we do it that way, for sure. And like they are waiting for, say, someone to clear the road or one of the fishing boats to come through and take him out, because he is late getting to this meeting, and this was their final vacation before he goes to work for Augur.
And there can be this kind of whimsy about time too, where there's like, oh no, a boat will be here. Well, when will the boat be here? Gets here when it gets here. It's might be a day after. Yeah. You could have, again, it's a trope, but it's also a good one. The ongoing trope is like, is the boat coming today? It's like, I don't know, comes today, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, you can easily do that.
He has to learn to get into the rhythm of the town.
Yeah. And just as he's getting into that rhythm is when the boat shows up.
Yeah.
You can have some more time there. I mean, it's not a very long movie. You can add some time to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is 99 minutes. I don't know if you'd want to go too much longer than that. It actually is longer than you think it is.
Yeah. But it paces so well. Like, it got to the end and I was like, oh, yeah. Like, it was a really zippy movie because they don't waste a lot. It's kind of nice. I enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah. No, I did too.
Just more time in the village.
Yeah. A little more time in the village to kind of set Nora up and just that life there and how kind of fun that is. I guess it's a good thing that he did compromise his morals a little bit to go there, because he made a shit ton of money while he worked for Augur. And then he got to take it back to this little hamlet where he probably was homeless. Living in the hotel, doing his correspondence with Bill again.
Yeah.
Doing his old job.
Well, he wasn't really poor. Like Bill,
he was making good. He was making good money with what he was doing. But
because doesn't he say that at one point?
Oh yeah,
I'm not as poor as she thinks I am.
Yeah, there's this little confusing moment where he's in New York and was convinced to go to the subway when Horace manufactured a car breakdown.
Yes.
So he's like, okay, I'll hail a taxi. No, I'll take the subway. It'll be faster. And that's what gets him to Nora, because Nora's on the subway. So he's like, holy shit. Go find Nora, follow Nora, and they have a chat down the road, and he realizes he doesn't have his wallet.
Picked pocket.
Never realizing he got robbed.
Yeah.
At no point does that come up again.
I feel that should come up with Horace to being like, dude, I know you picked my friend's wallet. Give it back to me. Nothing bad will happen to you.
Yeah.
No, Horace would just go pick it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, is this what you're looking for, son?
And
What about these two?
because we need to
You've
have
been a busy lad.
we need to have Horace messing with people.
Yeah.
That's going to be what sells that to a present day audience. So having gags and things like that, where he's manufactured this thing to get him in the way of Nora, but Nora also thinks he's a well-dressed bum that is making no money. He spent all his money on his suit and clearly has no money left. That's what leads to the misunderstanding in the pub, where she's feed him. Take some more potatoes and take some more stew.
Oh, here we go. It's good for you. One more helping.
Yeah.
I love the way that comes back. She said, it wasn't very good stew, though.
Yeah.
But didn't want him starving.
Yeah.
No.
Which was funny.
Give him a potato.
Because I love how subtle that was.
Yeah.
And then you don't realize how that whole thing played out until later. It's like, oh, that's what that was.
Yeah.
And I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah, again, it's why, like I said, it really doesn't need a lot of adjustments for a remake.
Yeah.
And like the whole thing, Nora doesn't have a huge amount of money, but she's willing to, she's like, I'll buy all the stew for you, dude. I'm going to do this.
And that's
for
where
you.
the fun comes from. It's like, you exaggerate it to a more modern audience because that's what the modern comedies are like. So you just keep force feeding him and he's too polite not to say anything and too much of in a crush. And there should be a little bit more of a moral conflict there. It's like, oh, here's this woman I kind of really dug in Ireland that I'd like to pursue. Oh, wait, I got this.
This woman's only got me tagged.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already got somebody who's got an ankle monitor on me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, that wasn't really clear in the original. Was that relationship something that he'd sort of just put on hold while he was in Europe and was fully expecting to resume? Mm-hmm. Or is it a surprise to him that she's... And I want to set it up that it's kind of a surprise to him.
I think so too, because it makes Tyrone's character feel a bit lecherous and little skeevy, playing both sides of the fence.
And it even does when he goes for lunch with Nora, because he does ditch his lunch with Francis to go for lunch with Nora.
Yeah.
Ooh, and I feel it like I think at one point we've got to state it. Could be at a certain point. He's like, is this painting that you bought me, I think our taste art may be one of the reasons we broke up. Like he thinks we broke up before I left. I don't understand what's happening now. Just a little nugget, like a little line or a little throwaway note where it's like they were.
Yeah, they were just together until he got back. Yes. There needs to be some sort of dialogue or something to make that work.
Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit there saying that, they did have a relationship, but it seemed unclear of like, was that on hold? Wasn't that on hold? What's going on here?
Yeah. And
he often refers to her as a friend, but usually that's in front of Nora.
Yeah. It could be one of those things. Yeah, there's really no hard feelings literally when the last time they broke up.
Yeah.
Because they just weren't compatible.
Yeah, they don't wind up taking the love triangle actually as far enough, because Nora's there in town, not really expecting to see Tyrone Power again. And then there's Francis. I mean, everything kind of coalesces on what Tyrone Power is supposed to be doing, because I don't even remember if Francis and Nora meet at all. I don't think they do.
No.
But
I have an idea. Francis doesn't have to be kind of like, it could be, okay, there's the J.Lo Matthew McConaughey movie where he's marrying another woman and she's actually fine. It's Bridget Wilson Sampras. It could be like, Frances isn't really truly a bad person. She kind of knows what her dad does. It's kind of dickish stuff, but they're simply incompatible. So what Horace can do is Horace kind of maybe puts her in the path of somebody who's closer to her, because he just knows if he can get her out of the way.
I kind of like that, but she doesn't recognize it right away either. Just like Fitz hasn't really recognized what's happening, so he's fixing more than one life.
Yeah, well, and that's, I want to see Horace working harder to keep Tyrone away from these people and get him in the path of Nora. But
that's the whole point.
Also, and changing other people's lives around it, or at least giving them some comeuppance. Because, I mean, you've got the toady Higginbotham, who you could have some fun with. I feel like he was a wasted character in this movie.
Yeah, it was to the point where I didn't even cast him.
Yeah. And I think that's where you should have this guy, this
I want
Toady,
Horace having so much fun.
he's
with
got
him.
all this ambition, and he's not getting given the keys to the kingdom for some reason for Higginbotham. He's been doing everything that Augur wants, and he's not getting what he wants.
And he knows more about the business than Augur even.
Yeah, even Tyrone Power's character is like, well, why isn't this given to Higginbotham?
Yeah.
And we can have some fun there as well. Maybe Higginbotham has a little more ambition and is trying to get Tyrone Power out of there. And he could actually be the little more typical villain that you would see in these. I mean, you've got the guy with the political power, and he's sure bad stuff, but Higginbotham's that 80s bad guy who's trying to
James favorite mannequin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
or maybe he overhears the whole speech where Horace is telling him is like, if you get too heavy into it, then the master's tears become your own. Everything, you don't have your own life. Your own opinions are not your own. He misunderstands that. Then he's like going, I know what I have to do. I have to say no to him every once in a while, and then he'll respect me. And then I'll get his company.
He's the one who was always getting in trouble for doing the things that he sees other people getting praised for.
Yeah.
And I think that would be pretty funny. Like, he's just this whipped boy. He's almost Smithers from The Simpsons, right? And it could be funny if, like, one person, and that would probably be the person who finds out about the leprechaun.
Yes. That's what I always kind of
So
assume.
then you have
like
Horace having his own little adventure and doing his leprechaun things and keeping Horace away from his gold.
And Horace sees all this too, and he's like going, he's always tricking him. Yeah. Horace is like, I want your, because Horace has ambition. Maybe Horace always, I know you're a leprechaun, I want your gold. And he tricks him every time he gets away.
Higginbotham, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that would be fun to kind of put that in there. It feels a little 80s traditional, but I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Those are just tried and true comedy things that work,
They're
which
lots
is why
of
they
fun.
do them.
Yeah.
And gives Horace more to do.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, he should have a lot more to do.
And I just thought of something that might fix that whole questionable thing with Fitz kind of almost actively pursuing Nora at the expense of Francis, is set it up so he doesn't really realize that he's in a relationship with Francis at this point, right? She's just his boss's daughter.
Yeah.
And they have an old friendship because they were dating before. But he doesn't realize, to him, he's just oblivious to the fact that she's trying to rekindle the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. It was an old college romance.
Yeah, and even in this movie, she's the one that says we're getting married.
Yes. And
that's looked like news to Tyrone Power.
Yeah.
So.
And I'd really like to keep it that way and make it that much more obvious that he really was clueless as to where this was going until that moment.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think that would play for a funny moment, is that sort of that,
and it's
the big eye.
Yeah, it's always this sacrifice of his morals, of having to work for a man he's spoken out against.
Having to marry a woman that he likes but doesn't love.
Yes, and all these sacrifices he's going to make for this money that it's starting to not look like it's worth it.
Yeah.
And you need to have all that stuff kind of coalesce into this perfect storm where he finally chooses Nora.
Yeah.
And that's the path he chooses. And it doesn't happen till right at the end, because even the leprechaun's given up on him, which is why that lucky piece, that piece of gold, turns into a pebble.
Yeah.
Because he's, in his head, made the wrong choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when he's giving the speech and it's all Horace in the audience, I want to do a Malkovich thing where it's all his head on all the women and all.
I don't remember once he makes the right decision. Did he look at the pebble again to see if it... That's a moment that I felt like was missing. Yeah. He should have reached back in, found the pebble, and it was back to being the balloon.
That he'd done the right thing. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And you know what? You could have a little bit of fun with it is when you go back to Ireland and they're living in the inn, is you could have a moment where this town's sort of turned into a sort of a booming little tourist community, because that's what he does, is he rebuilds communities and businesses. So he's helping to rebuild this community so that it can stay viable without compromise.
Oh, yeah. Like you could see him where he's, that could be part of it too, where he brings the whole idea of like, we just need more boats coming in and having little tours and fishing trails. And now there's more boats in the harbor because like now people can get away if anything happens. We needed more boats.
And that's what we know has happened because it's way down the road. He's now living in Ireland with Nora, married with kids. So that would be great to see that progress that he's done with his presence there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Bill's presence as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that sort of just really brings it all back around to him doing the things that he loves and that he's really good at, is he likes to rebuild, not tear down.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Horace is back home and happy as a clam.
Yeah, and you can still have that fun moment at the end where he gets his bottle of whiskey and he waves to the window.
Waves
I
out the
love
window.
that. I thought
And
that was sweet.
you have that opportunity to just make some of those characters in that town bigger characters as well, and give them a little more time to shine. So I cast in such a way where it's like I wanted to make everybody feel important.
That's a good idea. I wasn't sure because I was like, Sam, I don't know what to do with it. I don't want to change anything. But yeah, you're right. Like and you know what? We run into this a lot where it's just expanding the world around a little bit.
Yeah.
Is really,
This is one of those really great scripts that I don't want to mess with too much because it is a very good movie. It rates fairly decently on IMDb, 6.8 out of 10.
Yeah.
We won't play the Rotten Tomatoes game
Thank
today
you.
because there weren't enough critic scores for it. Modern critics, get off your ass and start watching this movie. But, weirdly enough, audiences only gave it a 48%. Proving that only 20-year-olds who don't like black and white movies are on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. That's so wrong.
Well, I'm a 50-some-year-old who doesn't like black and white movies, but everyone I watch I love, so do with that what you will.
It
Some
happens.
ways, I guess you need a Jason to force it down your throat. Or in this case, a Monty White.
Yes.
Thank you, Monty.
Thanks, Monty. I had so much fun. This
Oh,
is wonderful.
We're not done having some fun. Let's get to some
warm.
casting.
I felt warm with this movie.
I did too.
Yeah, what's affected me if I text Jay about it halfway through the movie?
Yes.
Yep.
Usually it's a complaint. So it didn't happen this time. All right. Well, let's get to some casting. I will go last because I know Trish is going to really love my casting.
Yay!
So I'm going to let Sam start this off.
Okay.
I had a little trick with my casting.
Ooh, me too.
So I actually struggled with the casting on this again because I liked what I saw so much. It was really hard to find,
It was tough.
parallel actors. But again, at the same time, they don't have to be.
I knew who my Nora was going to be while I was watching the movie.
Oh, I have a feeling
Nice.
you know who I have a feeling who you guys all cast or you did, but we'll see. Let's see. So for my Fitzgerald or Stephen Fitzgerald, I cast Grant Gustin. I think that he does that everyman role really nicely.
Okay.
And he's about the right age to be sort of in that transition as well.
Yeah, I actually, it was one of those, how old was Tyrone when he did this?
Yeah.
Okay, he was in his mid to late 30s, so that's kind of was like, okay, that's where I'm comfortable targeting.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I did as well, is just sort of assume that that's where you'd be making that transition as well into sort of maybe a bigger corporate environment at that point in your career. So yeah, I thought like Grant Gustin, I think he has that right look that I want for that character as well.
Mm-hmm.
For my Nora, I went with Ivana Lynch.
I thought of her.
Yes. She played Luna Lovegood in the Harry Potter
Oh,
movies.
yes.
She still works, and she's Irish, so I thought, you know what? Let's cast an Irish actress playing an Irish
That's
character.
what I did too.
Shocking.
I
did.
know. How about that?
For every Irish role, I cast an Irish.
As did I. And then for my Horace, I cast Chris O'Dowd. I think he'd be freaking hilarious as...
Almost happened. He is in my cast. I moved him elsewhere, mainly because you'll like it. But that plays really well to something they did in the movie where...
Are you too big to be a leprechaun?
Yeah. And he still was fairly small dude, but he's like, oh, we don't like to talk about it.
Well, it's like in American Gods. Pablo Schreiber is huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's the leprechaun.
Yeah, you don't need to say it.
Yeah.
No.
It's great. You do have a little line like that, and I'm like, I love it because nobody suspects the tall guy, right?
Nope.
Exactly, yeah.
So, like, he was on my list, and I'm like, oh, I have somebody else who probably is going to be much more fun in the role.
I don't know.
You could
Chris
have a
O'Dowd
funny-
is pretty funny.
I know.
pretty
but
funny.
You'll see.
You can have a
Okay.
funny line like, these is why stereotypes are harmful.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's why he's in my cast for sure, because I did not want to do this movie without him.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
So for my DC Augur, I went with Billy D. Williams.
Oh.
I think he'd play
Yes.
a really great sort of business magnet.
My
Be a little
thing with Billy D is he's a little old and his health isn't so good.
yeah, so and that is the problem. But yeah,
I mean, otherwise, he's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes, wonderful choice.
yeah, I assume that they're in health.
The thing that most people don't realize, like when he appeared in Star Wars, like most of the time that guy's in a wheelchair
Yeah.
and just stood up, did his role, sat back down again.
Yeah.
Like he's not in the greatest of health.
Yeah. And I mean they're all of that age where
Yeah.
it does start to happen. Unfortunately, I mean I did look at some other actors. I actually considered Denzel, who might be actually good in that role as well.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Sure.
flopping.
Those are good, all good.
Yeah. For my Frances Augur, I actually went with another Irish actress, even though she's not Irish in the movie. It just was accidental. I went with Ruth Negga.
Okay.
I was thinking of her too. I like her.
And then I made my Bill Spanish because he's international. So I went with Javier Bardem. I think that he'd be really great in that friend role. And I wanted him kind of that well-traveled urbane guy. And I think that he'd do that really well. And for some reason, watching this movie made me feel like it could be a film by this director, by the director I've chosen. Maybe not quite as quirky, but it has the potential. I went with Wes Anderson.
Because
it's very dialogue-y and characters are kind of quirky. I think that he could bring something really unique to the story.
Mm-hmm. I could see that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he'd have to cast Owen Wilson in a role, but that's okay. I like Owen.
Owen can be Hogan bottom.
Yeah. That'd be not a bad spot for him.
That was my cast and my director.
Great. That's very good casting.
Nice. Mine, I went a different way. And the reason was because when I saw Tyrone Power's character, I was thinking, oh, I just want like a good kind of tough New York person who could be a journalist. And then I went a different way as well because I was like going, so I made it Steph Fitzgerald, Natasha Lyonne, because I was like, I like her being a fish out of water in Ireland and being all tough and broady.
Okay.
I leave the romance stories just as they are.
Okay.
Horace, Tommy McTiernan. He's an Irish comic, and I think he would really nail this one out of the park. Nora, Sarah Bulger, another Irish actress, but she also looks kind of like, to me, the spit of Nora. Because Nora had a very distinct look, which I really liked. She's just had that gorgeous, like, just sunny face.
Well, the thing I liked about this movie is Nora felt like a normal, real person, and then you get Frances, who's got that New York polished beauty. Yeah. So I tried to keep that in mind with my casting as well.
I love that Nora's hair got messy.
Yeah.
Especially during the dance scene.
Yeah, it just seemed like this attractive yet normal person that...
And just on their walk, it gets messy. She's not too fussed. She knows what's going on. It's wind. What are you going to do? It's so good. Yeah, Nora's a great character. Just putting that out there. DC Augur, I went with Pierce Brosnan.
Great. I kind of wish I had. I was thinking I think we all were kind of thinking in a similar way with that role.
Well, I like the idea that he was charismatic and there was just a dark undertone to him, and I think Pierce could do that.
Yeah.
He has done that lots, and he's so good.
Yeah, and I thought that was important with Frances as well.
Yeah, and Frances Augur, Kate Mcgrath, actually another Irish actress. I just kind of went Irish all over the place because I just felt, except for the lead. Don't know why, but she's got red hair. I'm going with that.
Fair enough.
And then for my Bill Clark, I actually was figuring Bill was from Ireland. I don't know why.
I wanted to switch that too, since it seemed like his home base was in Europe, so it didn't make sense that he was an American.
Yeah.
He didn't have to be Irish per se, but I felt like he should have been from somewhere in the UK.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Spain.
Or Spain. Javier Bardem, that works.
Yeah.
I went with
somewhere within in that area.
Exactly. So I went with Cillian Murphy.
Nice. Yep. I thought about him.
And I thought, because I just love watching him do stuff. Plus, just those eyes. Can't deal with them. It's great. Then for my director, I went with Neil Jordan, who's an Irish director, who also has done some lighthearted stuff. So
very, very good. We're on a roll here.
But I don't know if
I can top anybody tonight. I did have a tough time with Fritz, but I wanted, because his character was also of Irish descent, so I did want an Irish actor who could do an American accent.
Nice.
Or was of Irish descent and American. Something like that. So I was targeting that. So for my Stephen Fitzgerald, I went with Jamie Dornan. From The Fall, Synchronic.
And Barb and Star, go to Vista Del Mar. He's great in it.
50 Shades movies. Handsome dude.
Beautiful.
Very Tyrone Power looking, actually.
And I was...
Oh my God, yeah.
That took a long time to find that one. To come up with it. It did not pop in my head at all. That was the bulk of my research. Like finding that perfect person for the Tyrone Power.
That's why I went completely another way. I'm like, once I had it in my head, Natasha Lyonne, I just went with it because I'm like, that's...
Right. For my Nora, Aisling B.
Sweet. I thought
could
about
not
her too.
Hear her voice through the whole thing.
That was a great choice because I was sure that one of us was going to go with Saoirse Ronan.
I thought but then I thought I cast her so much and she just seemed too young for what I wanted to do.
Yeah, there was no role that I thought was good for her in this one.
I agreed. Yeah. I'm really pleased that we didn't fall into that trap.
And Aisling can kind of be like, she busts him a little bit on some of
And
his
that's
stuff.
what I want. Like, her character, she
Yeah.
just already kind of does that in her public life.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
she's a comedian, but she goes on shows and as a presenter. Like, she does all this stuff, and she's so
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's a beautiful woman. You can catch her on The Fall, This Way Up. She did the last Doctor Who episode that was actually pretty good
Yeah.
with the Daleks, so it was kind of cool to see her pop up there. But I love seeing her pop up in stuff. I'm constantly looking up Aisling V stuff on YouTube. So
Especially her show appearances where she
Her
pops up on
panel
the-
shows.
yeah, her
It's
panel
great.
shows. Yeah, like 8 out of 10 cats and
Her QI appearances.
Yeah,
Graham
I was about to
Norton
say
even,
QI.
like-
I just started watching QI on YouTube,
Yes.
so yeah.
There's a great, okay, I know I'm getting way off topic. There's a great part where she's on Jonathan Ross show
Yeah.
with John Malkovich.
I watched
That
the
was
clip
hilarious.
yesterday. And
Stop us now. Go look at that.
yeah, go
It's
look
amazing.
at that. It is a really good clip.
Yeah.
So go find it. I watched it
And
yesterday.
she's so utterly shameless.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I love about her. She's not afraid to talk about anything.
No.
Yeah,
And that-
top, front, bottom, back, not bottom,
was-
front.
It would be the easiest role for her because, as far as I'm concerned, that's
Just
her
be
character.
Aisling
Just
V.
be yourself.
You win the Nora casting as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, me too.
And I had that like 10 minutes into the movie.
2 votes.
Yeah. As soon as I saw,
Oh, we suck. We try so.
I don't know why you do the high fives on a audio podcast and then
Because you
miss.
can hear it. You
Well,
can hear
it also makes me happy that you liked my casting on that one. I was very proud of that one.
It was brilliant.
All right. All cheers for Aisling V. All right. For my Horace, Sammy, we had a little tete-a-tete about that one. Chris O'Dowd is in my cast.
Yes.
He's coming later. Robert Sheehan. I wanted a little bit of manicness to him.
Yeah, I like Robert.
I can see him do that.
I honestly want to do 2 different people because it bothered me that Tyrone Power didn't recognize him. There was that hint of recognition, but never quite placing Horace. Like it's this fantasy, this shadow in the back of his mind, which may be why it worked. And it's fine the way it wasn't, but it always kind of bothered me that, and then I thought about doing 2 different people
You know what?
and having like the old Leprechaun versus him changing his appearance so it takes a little longer for you to realize that who he actually is.
You can make Robert all scruffy when he's with a beard and longer hair when he's in the woods. And then when he shows up to be the butler, he shows up as a stereotypical butler, clean shaven like the other guy, hair slicked back. That could change his look quite a bit and you wouldn't know it was him.
Yeah.
They do establish that the experience he had in the woods with the Leprechaun was a dream. Like he wakes up the next morning and it was a dream.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's explainable. And I like how Trish kind of fixed that pretty easily. For my DC Augur, I went with, if he's still acting, Alec Baldwin.
There you go.
I could totally see it. And all of our Augurs were fine. I think we were all sitting in the same box on that one of how we were thinking that character was going to be.
Well, his 30 Rock appearances are like DC Augur, where he's affable and charismatic, but a little bit dark.
Yeah, that was kind of why I was thinking about
You got it.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
And for my Bill Clark, Chris O'Dowd.
Yes.
So this good friend of Tyrone, who I wanted to have somebody who's more of Ireland and was going to be kind of, because, Tyrone Power's the straight man. So I wanted to have not so straight men around him. Yeah. For Francis, and this is where we were talking, we want to have the antithesis. I went with Jamie Alexander from Thor and Blind Spot. I wanted somebody very attractive, but you could definitely play that more serious businesswoman. I wanted to have that little bit of sinister in her eyes, She
can do it.
And that was was looking at a lot of actresses to I was just kind of looking at their eyes. Like, nope, you don't have it, you don't have it, you don't have it. Oh.
Yeah,
Well, that's why I went with Ruth. I cast her before I cast Augur because she plays, she can pull off that sort of slightly menacing character without making you feel like she's going too far over the top.
Yeah. And she's got a great voice.
Yes.
Yes.
For Taddy, the innkeeper, I went with, because I could not do an Irish movie without Dylan Moran. So I needed him somewhere to have a crazy innkeeper being Dylan Moran. Yes, please.
Yes, and tell him the Leprechaun story. Dylan Moran doing a Leprechaun story. Awesome.
Yes. And if you don't know who he is, check out Shaun of the Dead and a series called Black Books, which is literally everywhere.
Yeah.
So check it out. You'll like it. You'll get over the laugh track. Just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
The show is good in spite of it. For my Tom Higginbotham, because of how he looked in Sin City, I went with Elijah Wood. Those big round glasses and the slicked back hair. I could not get that out of my head. I'm like, that's Higginbotham.
Nice.
And he'd have so much fun doing it too.
Especially with how we've kind of reworked that character.
Yeah, he is the smarmy, toady character, but he knows more than people realize kind of character.
As soon as you mentioned Chris O'Dowd, for some reason I was like, I wonder if Richard Ayoade would be Higginbotham.
I couldn't figure out where to put him. And one more for Cornelius. He is the barkeep in the U.S., and this is the one that overfeeds Tyrone Power, and they have an Irish wedding in this pub. And I went with Brendan Gleeson. A little more elder statesman, Irishman, 28 Days Later, in Bruges. Great stuff.
I want him to break up the fight in the pub.
I want his son, Domhnall, to play the fireman.
Oh, yeah!
From the dance.
Yes, please.
New casting. I was trying to figure out how to use him.
Yeah. Because I love that scene.
He's such a weird, mean-looking dude, and I'm like, he's perfect for the dumb fireman.
Yeah.
Did you check the kitchen? Oh, no. Oh, maybe it's upstairs.
So good. That was the goofiest thing in the whole movie.
Yeah, and it was so much fun.
Yeah. And then it starts a bar fight when he realizes he's being messed with.
Yeah.
Which is, especially in the 40s, a very stereotypical Irish thing to do.
Yeah, true. But then you have the Brendan Gleeson of it all. Because I could see people would start a fight and the Brendan Gleeson would be like, you guys, you're going to stop right now. And you would.
Oh, yeah. There's no arguing with that, man. Yes, okay.
Uh-huh.
He'd let it go for a little bit until he got annoyed.
Yeah, as soon as it damaged something in his pub, then he'd get annoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For my director, by the way, almost forgot, but didn't. Irish director, Kenneth Brosnan.
He crossed my list there as well. Especially with the humor that he brings to the Agatha Christie movies he's been doing.
Yeah.
And the pacing that he does with those, I can totally see that.
Yeah. So I think we did great on our casting all the way around.
Yeah. I looked at Ruth Nick and I was like, oh, maybe somebody, I shouldn't I? Yeah. I want to change her to Nora. That's
at least we all, well, Sam and I got Chris O'Dowd. That was the only crossover this go around.
Well, because there's such a wealth of Irish actors to choose from.
Yeah.
There really is if you're willing to look.
Well, they hide their accents so much.
Yes.
You have to look.
There's like the less famous Chris O'Dowd that I thought about doing. I think his name's Michael O'Doherty.
Oh, yeah. David O'Doherty.
David O'Doherty, thank you. You know who I'm talking about.
Where he has the tiny keyboard.
Yeah. I thought about him. I really did. And I'm like, no, you can't do this without Chris O'Dowd.
No.
Yeah.
No, you really can't. Because he is so very Irish, too.
Yeah.
His sentiment, his humor is so Irish, too.
You almost need a third person to translate for Chris O'Dowd and Aisling B.
Or you need to start watching more British talk shows because they're both on a ton.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Slowly, you do get a sense of the accents.
Yeah.
When you watch
8 out of 10 cats. Does Countdown. You'll see both of those on there.
Yes, quite a bit.
O'Doherty for sure. I've never seen Chris O'Dowd.
No, Dowd's never been on. I was talking about O'Doherty and Aisling B.
Yeah.
They're always on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if they have jobs.
That is their job.
They do.
It is like just travel from show to show and be funny.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and stand up. You know what? I kept thinking that would be the sweet spot. I don't mind doing stand up comedy, but I'd be like, if I could just have the job where I just went to panel shows. I'd love that job.
Did you see
Especially in the UK because they get to swear.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Did you see that new one I recommended to you? I literally just told you.
That I just literally just told you. Yes.
Yeah,
I
because there
saw
was
only a couple of them, and
there was one celebrity episode, and Aisling B was on it.
Oh, I have to watch that one
It was very good.
because I was looking at it.
Somewhere in the middle of the series.
I felt so dumb after the first episode I saw because I'm watching it. And
That
I'm
was
like,
one of the episodes with the smartest people.
I know. And like they don't see it, and then I don't see it, and I'm I'm freaking stupid. He did literally just tell me.
It's a brilliant show. You got to check it out. I'm not going to tell you more than that because then we get talking about too much British television.
Yeah.
Which has probably already happened.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, thank you again, Monty. We
Yes.
appreciate this request. It was again, a wonderful surprise getting this kind of fan challenge, and this is why we like doing the fan challenges. We're being exposed to movies we might not do otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you right now, this probably wouldn't even cross my radar.
It's funny because I've heard of it, but I've never, again, it's not my go-to genre. 1940s black and white is not somewhere I go for pleasure watching. And there's so many wonderful movies out there, and we can't possibly watch them all. So if people take the time to tell us about something they love, then we're going to watch it eventually.
Yeah, you told me romantic comedy, I'm like, I groaned. And then you said, with the Leprechaun, hello.
Yeah.
That's how you get my attention. Monty knew it. He's obviously been listening.
Yeah.
How do I get Jay's attention or Sam's attention? Throw in something fucking weird.
Yeah. Well, what's really great about this one is how it's an older movie, but all the beats and everything in it still works. How prescient was this?
Yeah, it was a little creepy at times of like, oh wow, rich media magnate runs for office.
Right? Creepy.
I was so happy that he lost, though.
Yeah. And then his daughter wants her husband to work for him. Again, something happening. It's creepy.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, especially Americans, can probably identify with. Check it out. Go check out The Luck of the Irish from 1948. There's no excuses. It's free on YouTube if you haven't already done it before this episode. It's definitely worth your time.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just over an hour and a half, and it's a good hour and a half.
Yeah.
Some of the movies, like Nightmare Alley, at a certain points it dragged, and I'm like, oh god, how much time's left?
Too. Yeah.
But this one, I didn't even think that. Not once.
No, and I always use it as a good gauge. If I don't feel like I could start doing my research about the actors and stuff during the movie, then it's a good movie.
Right.
If I don't want to pick up anything else to do while watching the movie, it's got me fully engaged, and that's not an easy thing to do now.
Yeah, I kept having to like, oh shit, I need a time code.
Yeah.
I kept skipping, but that was a good beat. I got to write that down. Mm-hmm. But I was so into it that I'd be like, rewind, what was the time code?
Yeah, and the dialogue, again, we were just discussing the dialogue was so great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, you're right. It's not a laugh out loud movie, but I will genuinely say that I smiled almost the whole way through the film.
It's a real, honest to God, feel-good movie.
Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes you just need those. This might go into the vault where when I'm feeling kind of down, pop this in, feel a little warmer.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody's got the Halloween watches and the Christmas watches. Now you got a St. Patty's Day watch.
Yeah.
Not that it has anything to do with St. Patty's Day, but...
Actually, literally nothing to do with St. Patty's Day, aside from the fact that it's Irish.
Yeah, or
leprechauns.
Or watch it Saturday morning when you're eating your Lucky Charms.
There you go.
They're magically delicious.
They are.
So I'm told. I think they're disgusting.
They're kind of pure sugar with the marshmallows. If
so much for that sponsor.
They make a great snack if you're just looking for a sugary snack.
They're better without milk.
They really are, actually.
I'll do like corn pops and just throw them in a bowl and snack on those.
Yep.
All right. So now that we've got into our favorite cereals to snack on, let's get the flock out of here. But before we do, that was a sheep joke. What do we? I'm not going to go there. Before we go, do us a favor. Like us and follow us on our social media at Invasion of the Remake on Facebook, Invasion of the Remake on Facebook and Instagram, and Invasion of the Remake at gmail.com if you want to email your suggestions, your corrections, your comments, like Monty did with his fan challenge. Mm-hmm. And you can definitely do it at all those places or email us. We'll respond somewhere. And if we like your idea, it could become a future episode.
Well, let's face it, even if we're not really fond of the idea, as long as it meets the criteria and sounds like it could be a challenge, we probably would still do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And just so you know, like what happened with Monty, if it seems to be thematically around a holiday, you might have to wait a while.
Yes, yeah. He made such a good pitch that it's like, well, I can't do that in any other month than March.
Yep.
And he totally understood.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Monty.
Also, do us a favor, write us a review on your favorite podcast provider like Apple Podcasts or
Good Pods.
Good Pods, who's been very supportive of independent podcasts like us. And Good Pods is cool because it's like a social media for podcasts. So you can like and follow all these podcasts that you like and share it out with other podcast lovers like yourselves.
Yes.
Yeah. And they're growing it all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an opportunity to have like a chat feature within the application at some point.
That'd be great.
Ooh.
And we could do a live chat with our fans. That would be cool.
That would be awesome.
Also, visit our website.
invasionoftheremake.wixsite.com/podcast.
And over there, you'll find t-shirts, mugs, posters, PPE, masks, totes, notebooks, and so much more. Lots of cool designs that we're throwing up, all sorts of new stuff all the time. You might even find one for this particular episode coming soon, if it isn't already there.
Yeah, that'll require
Well,
me
by the time it
getting to
drops.
things, but
It'll happen. Something will happen. Just, keep looking and new
As
stuff.
ideas occur, we do stuff
Yeah.
sometimes. Well, these guys do stuff. I'm very upset by how I draw.
I don't draw anything, Trish.
No.
I know. I have it in my head. I can't make it happen on the thing.
We'll have to talk you through it. Maybe we could get it happening. Yeah, so when you're over at TeePublic, sign up. Even if you don't make a purchase there, you can get alerts when new product hit our store or when sales happen, because then you can get something cool and a little cheaper. But just know when you buy something at our store, it helps keep this show going. It helps with hosting fees and maintenance fees and that sort of thing for the podcast. So help us out and grab yourself something comfortable and nice.
Trish is wearing one of our shirts today.
I
That's
am.
right. Yes, and she pulls the shirt down on an audio podcast. Like, you're all going to look at this, I'm that person you saw in that thing that one time. And I got to say, that's a sharp looking shirt. I've never seen it in person. So
It's my
I don't have
favorite.
one yet.
Yeah. And I
That and
almost
angry
wore
fish.
the I'm the voice you heard in that thing that one time today, but I decided not to. But I should have.
We'll coordinate one of these days.
One of these days.
There you go.
That's what we'll do.
And that's a sharp little shirt too, because it's got like the audio wave running through the letters. It's very cool. Go check it out over at our TeePublic store. All right. Well, that's it for this week. We're going to be back next week with something.
It won't be Tyrone Power, most likely.
95% sure that's probably not going to happen, but I don't know for certain.
We don't know. Tyrone Power just sort of snuck up on us. Next thing we knew.
Yeah. Tyrone Power happens.
Which is far better than shit happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and Tyrone Power
Although
happens.
a Tyrone Power shit.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a...
No,
it's a power move.
It's a power shit.
That's a power move. I've been Jason.
I'm always Sam.
I continue to be Trish.
And we are out of here.
I don't know who you are or what sort of a game you're trying to play. Did you steal these?
I never stole anything in my life, except what was rightly mine.
Well, that's one thing we have in common. Here, take this back.
But I don't understand you, sir.
Now, you didn't really think I'd steal your savings, or whatever they are. Here.
You wouldn't be playing tricks on a poor old man, would you?
No, I'll leave the tricks to you. Here.
Take it back. Bury it again. Go on, bury it now. You give it back to me. You give it back. At least you're alive. Never forget you for this. You earned my undying gratitude. Here, take this little bit of a keepsake to remind you of our meeting.
No,
Take it. Take it.
Thank you.
No thanks are necessary. It is I that am thanking you from the bottom of my heart.
All the luck in the world to you.
Mr. Stephen Fitzgerald, you have a way of twisting things in the most perplexing manner. It is I that am saying all the luck in the world. You. So, sir, goodbye. And good luck to you. Oh.